Hey there, Mariana here. Today I'm going to be sharing something a little bit different. My journey from full time employment to becoming a B2B SaaS product marketing consultant. This video is going to be especially interesting for those of you thinking of making a similar leap. So let's dive in. A question that I receive very often is, how did I know it was the right time to leave my full time job? For me, it was this perfect storm of circumstances. I had been living in Vancouver, Canada for over 4 years, and I always knew that Spain was calling me back home eventually. And when my full-time job started feeling like it wasn't the right fit, it just clicked. This was my moment. I needed the flexibility to move overseas while still generating income. So consulting felt like the natural next step. I decided to give myself a timeline. I decided to give myself 3 to 4 months to land my first client. And if I couldn't make it, I would just go back to full-time work back in Europe. I had savings, which made taking the leap less terrifying. And I would actually advise to at least have 6 months worth of savings before deciding to make the full switch. Another great question that I receive is, what skills from my in-house roles proved more valuable in consulting? The most valuable thing I brought to consulting was definitely my industry-specific experience. After working for more than 10 years for different tech companies, especially early-stage startups, I started realizing that they all struggle with the same challenges. Limited resources with competing priorities, the constant tension between quick wins and sustainable growth, the crowded markets requiring clear differentiation, and the lack of alignment across teams. Having helped various organizations overcome these exact challenges proved gold when starting consulting. I knew how to help teams prioritize and be intentional about where to focus their energy. And when you've seen the same patterns play out multiple times, you just develop this sixth sense for what works. Another great question that many times I get is, how did I assess if I had enough expertise to position myself as a consultant? Honestly, for the longest time, I didn't think consulting was in the cards for me. The turning point came when I was working full-time and I was hiring external consultants, contractors, and agencies, and I realized what they were offering were skills and expertise I already had. I just needed to figure it out how to package my work and sell it. It was one of those aha moments, like, wait, I've been doing this exact work for years, I know how to do it, and I can help other companies do the same. How did I define my specific niche and service offerings? Picking my niche for me was very straightforward. I knew I wanted to work with organizations in similar size to those I worked with before, because I had the experience and I knew I could deliver results. For my services, even though I've done it all, demand generation, content marketing, events, PR, social media marketing, product marketing is where my heart is. It's what I'm most passionate about and where I know I can make an impact. If you're struggling to pick your niche, think about what's that one thing that makes you lose track of time, that gets you into that state of flow. And that should be a pretty good indicator of the direction you should be taking. And from there, things should get a little bit easier. You'll know if you want to target individuals or companies, but the one thing that's not negotiable, at least for me, is that you really need to enjoy what you're doing. In my case, again, I really enjoy helping companies understand their core audiences, speak to them like actual humans, not robots, and drive growth with messaging strategy. What was my process for determining pricing? Pricing was a thing. Let's put it that way. I had a pretty good sense of market rates because as I said, like when I was working in-house, I work with multiple consultants, contractors, agencies. So I had a pretty good idea of market rates. But these people, they were very experienced and they've been doing it for many years. So this is where imposter syndrome kicked in hard. I wondered if I could charge similar rates compared to these seasoned professionals. to give you some context, I work with agencies that they charge $50,000 for 4 to 6 weeks of work. Agencies that charge $50,000 for a market research report that then we use for a positioning exercise. I work with consultants that they charge $125 an hour up to $170 an hour. Or I also work with consultants that they use more like retainers models, that they were, I don't know, let's say 5,000. One of them was like $5,000 per month for 4 hourly long calls, unlimited access to email and Slack. So basically this means, I could email them as much as possible if I had questions or I wanted them to review any of my work documents. So very, very wide ranges. So when it came to pricing, I honestly just had to experiment. I had to experiment until I landed in a range where I felt comfortable and also my clients were comfortable with. So this is just for you to, know that you can charge per day, per hour, per project on a retainer model. At the end of the day, it's going to depend on you, on the project, and also on the client needs. What basic business setup steps did I take? This is also a question that everyone wonders. And in my case, I kept this pretty simple. I'm self-employed and I pay taxes in my home country, so I didn't have to start a formal company. Maybe one day if I make millions, I'll consider incorporating. I did hire an accountant because I'm terrible with math. And the business investment that has provided me with the biggest return has been my website. I've been building it gradually. I started with 2 to 3 pages and a contact form, and I've been slowly adding to it testimonials, case studies, logos of companies I work with. And I very recently, for instance, I just added like an FAQ page. I also wanted to have fun and experiment with video. This is how this YouTube channel started while I was looking for my first client. Many people have said that they like my videos. So if you like this video, or, if you have ideas of topics that you want me to speak about, please leave it in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, all that stuff. There's going to be a part 2 of this video because this is already pretty long. So stay tuned for that one. And when it comes to YouTube, I wish I was more consistent, but life gets busy. I know, lame excuse. I'll try to do better. So as I said, this video is getting pretty long. I'm going to wrap up here. Stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to speak about how I found my first client, my day-to-day reality as a consultant, how my business has evolved, and any practical advice I wish I had when I started. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in part 2. Bye-bye.